Excellent. That's actually a good spot to start right there.
So hello people, if anyone's watching now, welcome to the 5th edition D&D using Fantasy Grounds tutorial stream. I'm Jimmy, this is Dylan, he's the DM.
Hello.
We're going to cover a lot of stuff, starting from using Fantasy Grounds in general, and moving on into creating a 5th edition character using the program, and a little bit of combat and things like that.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to start off with specifically going over the main screen interface. There's a few buttons on the screen that you probably will never use, especially if you don't game. So I'll just briefly mention them. Those would be creating and loading a campaign. However, joining a game and managing characters are two useful tools. One is obviously to join a game, and the other one is a non-connected version of Fantasy Grounds that simply accesses books and basic tools for creating a character, so you don't have any of the other features. Another thing that I want to go over is the settings, which I think honestly should be done first. Settings, anytime you go into the settings, you'll automatically check for updates, which is kind of useful. Um, but
Hang on, I gotta get that. And yeah.
but in any event, if you're going to run a game, I would recommend moving your data directory, which is in the general section, to a location that you can more easily access than having to navigate, either making a shortcut or actually moving the file to a different location. Um, Other than that, there's not that much that you have to do other than to make sure that you have the check for Steam DLC ticked if you are using DLC from the Steam client. When you close down settings, it will bring up the updater, and it looks like it actually has an update right now, which is kind of funny.
Oh, let's update it then.
It had some sort of Steam package for me. I don't know.
Alright, update is run. Doesn't look like there is anything new for me, but I'm not using the Steam version. I'm using the one from the website.
So, Kitsune Zeta has Ultimate License Owner. Is that the one that allows you to connect unlicensed people, as many unlicensed people as you want?
I'm gonna have to remember to edit that part out when I put it on YouTube.
Yeah. Okay. So, basically, to create a new character, we're going to use the Manage Characters button, and you'll want to select 5th edition in the list of rule set. You can select an extension, which is basically just a theme or a decal set for the program, but it's not necessary.
And I don't have any, so we're not doing that. Alright, so this is the character creation screen.
Um,
You know what, this is probably going to work better if I actually connect to you.
can you connect to me?
Because I don't have the rulebook showing up here, do I?
Um, no, you probably won't.
Alright, so we're going to
Yeah.
back out of that. Gonna have to go to join game.
Well, you won't be able to access some of the materials, which they're not necessary for creating a character, but so basically the only two features that are exclusive to the manage character section is the ability to use um, the role tracker and the ability to use a point system for creating your characters. Otherwise, it's just easy to use the regular in-game connection, which is achieved by going to join game.
Yeah, trying that. It says I can't connect to you.
I haven't gone in yet. Doing it now.
Alright. Apologies, guys. We didn't really do a practice run-through of this ahead of time.
Okay, I'm in. So you should be good to go. Another thing that would be notable is that while you don't have those features for rolling stats while you're logged into an actual session, you can use the notes section to keep notes, which is a lot easier to track your roll than, say, tracking them in the chat box.
Alright, so you may have seen there was another character existing there. That's my character for our game, but what we're doing here is creating a new character. So I hit the little green plus for create new. Let's make this bigger. Alright.
Before we get into the character creation, there are a couple of things that I want to point out. These are real simple, basic things that you're going to be using throughout Fantasy Grounds, whether you're a DM or a player. One of the things that you notice is that a lot of your features are accessed by using the right-click button, and it functions differently depending on where you click. So if you click on the background, you'll bring up a list of commands just on the background that allows you to arrange and lock your dice positions, minimize or go to window mode, or to exit the program. When you do this on the character sheet, it changes its functionality, and there are a lot of other features that pop up in different locations, like on maps. Another thing that's important is chat commands, which can be looked at. You can see your available commands by just typing a / and hitting enter in the chat box. You're still okay. At the bottom of the screen is a list of, a row of shortcuts, basically, and I think there's like 40 something between Control, Alt, Shift.
There's 48 because there's a row of 12, and Control, Alt, and Shift add another row each.
Okay.
And when you say something, I'll do it. There's a bit of a delay on the stream as compared to when you're talking, but I'm keeping up with you.
Okay. Let's see, what else? Oh, the right side buttons. Let me minimize real quick, or at least pop it out. Oh, that doesn't help. Okay, well, Mumble's actually in the way of some of the buttons, but
yeah,
I can go based on your screen. Okay, so the very top left button on the right side of the screen is the combat tracker.
And you'll see in the combat tracker it's showing our characters from our weekly game, because it does actually save the state of the game where we left off.
Next to that is the party menu, and that shows who's in the party, and it allows the party to divvy up experience, gear, and even choose order of marching and stuff like that. Below that is a list of tables that you probably won't use this very often, but it's used for some of the basic rules. You can find any of the tables that are in the core rules that you have loaded up into the game. Like, for example, a table for encounters, if you have like a DNG or something like that. There's a calendar, which is kind of cool because it actually takes into account the campaign setting. I'm pretty sure that this is the Forgotten Realms calendar, although I could be completely wrong.
It's possible. I do remember, I think, Flame Rule being a month in Forgotten Realms, and I see that here.
Below that is a day and night settings. It's just for aesthetics, along with the colors button, which allows you to change the color of your dice.
Don't actually have the day and night settings. I think that might be a DM only one.
That is. My bad. That's why yours is on the left. Okay. You do have the modifiers button, which can be used for basically, it's a more detailed version of the modifiers section down in the bottom left-hand corner. Effects command, which can be used for adding predetermined effects to characters. It's just kind of a quick tab that you can find all of the listed effects and just drag them as needed. It's really useful as a GM if, for example, a character like falls into a pit and so they break their leg, so you put an effect on them or something like that. The check mark is the options, which I'm not going to go over. And then you have the, looks like you have 7 buttons. These are the main buttons that you're going to be using. The top one is the PC button that you use to access the characters that are available to you. The next one is the story button. Now, I'm not exactly sure what the story button does for the PCs. I'm guessing that if I reveal story information, that it will pop up in that section.
Cool.
The maps is where you can access images that the DM has shared with you, be it a map or pictures of monsters. It's...
Can you pop up one of the maps from last session just so I can show them?
Yes, I can do that.
Alright, so you see on the map here, you can expand it. You can click and drag to see different parts of it. We have all the character tokens on it for where we're standing and everything.
Actually, while we have the map up, we might as well go over some of the map commands, just because we're here.
Sure.
You can increase or decrease the size of the tokens, which is actually kind of important, by holding Control and then using the scroll wheel on your mouse.
I am gigantic.
You can rotate the icons either by using the scroll wheel without hitting anything or right-clicking. And if you right-click on an icon, you actually pull up a menu that gives you several different options.
And also, if you use the scroll wheel without having it over an icon, it will zoom the map in and out.
Correct. While we're on the map, a few key things. You can draw on the map, which can be useful for conveying messages that aren't so vague, like over by, that table over there.
I am an artiste.
I am not an artiste. But even furthermore, there's pointers, which are extremely useful in, for example, making breath weapon.
Yes, so for example, my character is a dragonborn. He breathes a cone of fire. Why is this not working?
I'm not sure. Um, and so the different shapes, are if you're trying to erase, it's actually best to clear drawings there.
Thank you.
So I don't know if you can access the clear drawings option,
No.
but
I had an actual, just an eraser.
that's achieved by going down to drawing and then where it'll say enter drawing mode or lock drawing layer, which I don't know if you have those options as a player. Go to the bottom one. There you
That's
go.
my birthday
Erase.
code.
Okay, what else is there to do? I don't think that there's much else to do in the maps. I mean, it's pretty straightforward.
Just as a side note, the DM can conceal portions of the map until the players are close enough to see it. Just like that, if we were over here,
For example.
we wouldn't be able to see this part of the room because we're not there yet.
All right. Yeah, I think that's about it for the maps. I don't think I really have any other use for this map anyway. So, all right. I think that's actually, let's see. Now we're to the NPC button, which you probably won't use as players. If the GM's nice, he might leave a list of NPCs for you guys to look at so that you can remember who's who, which I might actually start doing that.
Might be helpful.
Yeah, that way you guys can at least remember like who's who. There's the items list, which is directly tied with some of the DM created items that will go onto the characters' item lists. This can be anything from, for example, amulets that the
Or
current
this
party has
glamour
acquired,
studded leather armor that's sitting right here.
or the glamour studded leather armor. Yes. Let's see. The notes section.
You notice it has a section here that says ID in a green circle. That means the item's been identified and the players know what it is. The DM has the option to leave the item as unidentified until they can cast a spell or otherwise figure out what it does, in which case it won't have all this information.
That is correct. In fact, the DM can create a alternate description and name for the item that doesn't reveal until the ID button is clicked. Trying to think. The notes section. That's actually really cool because you can use notes to communicate with the GM. The GM can see everything that goes into the notes section, but only a notes owner who isn't the GM can read their own notes. So,
Like I have a note here that's just little tidbits of information that my character knows about the other characters, just as a reminder for myself.
I have about a dozen notes in here from several different players, and even my own notes that I've made while developing the game. So,
Oh, I spelled holier than thou wrong.
lastly, there's the library tab. This is actually really useful in that it has.
I can't see mine. Where's the book? The book isn't loaded.
Oh, that's because I actually had a little bit of a trouble with my DLC, and I had to do a bunch of hoop jumping. Hold on a second.
Yeah, we need to get that loaded in.
For now, I'll actually give access to both of the books. Okay, tell me if you can get it now.
I'm still seeing nothing on library. Oh, there it is. Okay. Now you have to go into library, click modules, and then you see the books here, and you have to open the book. Click on the actual book thing and drag it open to get it to show up, I believe.
That's correct.
And there we go. Now the player's handbook is showing here.
Also available is the monster manual, which is actually really good. The details in it are excellent.
There it is. Yeah, it wasn't. It didn't show up at first when the PHP did, but there it is.
Um, so basically, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all the tools that you're going to need. Some of them, as players, you're probably not going to access. You probably will never access the story tab unless the DM has something that he specifically wants to show you out of it. And the items tab, probably not so much either. But anything that's been showed that hasn't been re-hidden from players, you can re-access that information through those buttons. Now, from here, we're going to go ahead and cover what's required to actually create a character in Fantasy Grounds. This is for the 5th edition of Dungeons & Dragons. I have a nice little outline here to kind of go over the basics. You're going to want to roll your stats, which can be done in any number of ways, but I'm sure Aaron can just come up with...
Well, I mean, the classic, as usual, is a 4d6 minus drop the lowest and roll 6 sets of it.
I rolled a set of stats earlier that came out pretty well. I had 2 17s, 2 16s, 15, and a 14.
Oh, there's an 18 in there.
Nice.
Okay, so what we have here, minus the lowest on each one, is... That's a 9, 10, 18, 12, 11, and a 12. Not great stats, not terrible, but, you know, it's good for a single attribute-dependent character. So what you do then is you're going to assign them to your abilities here on the sheet. What kind of character are we going to make?
I think Barbarian actually works pretty good. I would just change one of those 12s to a 14 or a 15 just to make it something that's a little easier.
Fair enough. Alright, so we will put, let's see. In the character creation page, you can just drag the role onto here. Well, you can't do that here because it's not really that kind of role, so I'm typing the numbers in.
Correct. That was another reason why I was going to bring that up. There's a roll tracker that basically has blanks, and you can determine how many dice you're going to roll if you drop any number of them, etc. On the character creation page. And then it'll actually put the roll total in a nice little box for you to drag stuff over. But in this case, you can just simply click on the attribute. It doesn't actually look like you've selected the box, so you're going to have to be careful with that.
Yeah,
anytime you click in it,
two of them.
anytime you click in it, you have to type out the full number. So don't just think that you can, like, if you accidentally type a 6 in the blank and you want to add a 1 before it, you just have to type 16 instead of 6.
So
next
is race, right?
Correct. Next is race. So you'll want to go to the library, open the player's handbook, and select race from the list.
Now, since we're doing a barbarian, I'm going to go with a dwarf for this guy.
That is actually what I did for the character that I created while prepping for this video.
Now, dwarves get a +2 to Constitution, and Constitution is a very important stat for a barbarian, which is why I stuck the 18 in there.
It is. Mountain dwarves get a +2 to strength, which is really
right.
cool.
Subrace. They get, is it in place of that, or is it in addition?
In addition.
So we'll go mountain dwarf. Now, the nice thing about this, I believe, is you can just drag the race onto the race tab on the character sheet, right?
Correct. So you drag and drop dwarf on there, and it'll actually pop up a screen that asks you to select the subrace, and it'll add all of the features of that race to your character sheet.
Now you'll see it automatically increase the strength from 14 to 16, increase the constitution from 18 to 20, and so on. It gave all the traits, dwarven armor training, dwarven combat training, all of these things, automatic languages, came just from dragging and dropping the race.
Now you'll want to go to the abilities tab for some of the races and some of the classes, and you'll see stuff like tool proficiency. Well, in this particular case, you have an option. So you're going to want to specify this, and it'll probably go underneath the proficiencies spot, not under the traits spot. So in this case, I'm making a dwarven brewer, and so I'm going to actually choose brewer supplies as a proficiency. There's actually 3 options here, but next is class. And we had already said that we were going to make... Oh, go ahead.
I'm putting in the brewer supplies proficiency.
Ah, yes.
Now, that's just something I just typed in. It just says proficiency with brewer supplies. You can copy-paste the equipment description if you want, but I mean, that's not strictly necessary.
Okay, so as we said, barbarian. So again, just like with the race, you just drag and drop barbarian onto the character sheet.
And it's going to prompt you to select the skills that you're proficient in. Getting 2 skills, because barbarians don't get a lot of skills, and I've got an intelligence penalty, although I don't remember if that applies to skills in 5th edition or not.
It doesn't.
It doesn't. Okay, so just getting 2 skills because that's what barbarians get. And we are going to say survival and perception.
Again, it's always best to check the abilities tab right after you add another thing like that to your character sheet, because it adds a whole bunch of stuff and you want to make sure that everything is ready. And in this particular case, there shouldn't be anything left that's not defined. So next would be the background. And this will have... Go ahead.
Notice, though, that some of these abilities aren't working straight off. Like, the Barbarian grants unarmored defense. When you're not wearing any armor, your armor class equals 10 plus your dexterity modifier plus your constitution modifier. Now, the character obviously doesn't have any equipment, so he's not wearing any armor yet, but his AC is still just showing as 10 plus his dexterity modifier, when actually it should be 16.
That can be corrected by going to the AC section on the main screen and clicking the little magnifying glass.
Yes.
It will bring up a combat calculation screen that will show initiative, speed, and armor. If you go to where it says second on the armor section and change that to con, it will automatically add the constitution modifier to the armor class.
Now, what is the proficient button for armor class? I haven't seen that pop up in AC for anything.
Basically, if you are not proficient in it, I believe it will give you a minus.
Right, so this is something I wouldn't have seen because my character doesn't wear armor.
Interestingly enough, you can actually toggle the proficiency from the main character screen, too.
Yes, you can.
Um,
But you'll see now the armor class is showing correctly at 16 AC.
Thank you for bringing that up. I had actually forgotten about that.
Sure.
I had taken care of that on the character I made earlier, but I had forgotten as well. Okay, so backgrounds. There's all kinds of backgrounds a barbarian can be. I had chosen a brewer, so I wanted to kind of go with that theme with an artisan who brews alcohols. So I went ahead and drug and dropped Guild Artisan on the character sheet. It doesn't really matter what you pick as long as it goes with what your character's supposed to do.
Yeah, I'm just looking for the actual background. What tab is that on?
That should
It's
be
right, it's the
underneath
main
library.
tab. Okay. No, it's on the main tab of the character sheet.
Oh, okay, yes.
Now, if you've been paying attention to the chat log over here on the side, you'll see it lists everything that it's adding to the sheet as we're doing the drag and drop.
let's see, what else is there? With the addition of the background, you're actually going to have several things that are not defined on your character sheet again. Kind of like with that tool proficiency, if you go down to your languages, it'll say one of your choice. You'll want to change that, and you'll get another tool proficiency. And since I already have brewer supplies, I'm going to choose alchemical supplies, so that I can actually distill alcohol with alchemy supplies. That would be more intense. I don't know. Whatever. I think that's it for this particular background.
Yeah, just ideals, bonds, flaws, personality traits.
Correct. And honestly, I always save those for last because you still have to do your equipment, which for me, and it may be different for other people, my equipment kind of goes into the identity of my character, what type of gear I plan on using.
Definitely. And also keep in mind, these ideals and flaws and everything, these are all for role-playing purposes. Depending on your DM, you don't necessarily have to just pick what's off of these tables. It's just a way to generate it quickly and give you a character concept if you don't have one fully.
Exactly. They're not even really necessary, but they're useful, especially for quickly developing a character idea.
That said, it does actually let you just roll a die and it'll pick whatever the die comes up.
That's actually one of those tables that I was talking about that you can access through the little button in the top right-hand corner. Next, you get equipment. Basically, in 5th edition, you get your gear by going off of a given list. You get some options that you can choose from. But in general, your gear's decided for you by a specific, by your class and by your background. There are variant rules that allow you to buy your equipment straight out, like classic Dungeons and Dragons, where you have, this amount of gold pieces and you just go to town. But I find that it's a lot quicker and a lot more efficient just to go off of the list. You get everything that you need, and if there's anything extra you need, you usually have a little bit of gold left over.
Right, so the Barbarian here starting equipment is a great axe or any martial melee weapon, 2 hand axes or any simple weapon, and an explorer's pack and 4 javelins. So we'll go with the great axe. Just drag it onto equipment.
I went with a maul because it's an amazing weapon.
Let's go with the maul then. If I can remove this. Maul is basically a giant hammer. And we'll take the 2 hand axes.
And short bow.
It does not say a short bow.
I think it says a simple weapon.
Or any simple weapon.
Okay, so
We could do the short bow instead of the hand axes. That's actually not a bad idea.
I can't remember what I chose. I didn't import the character, so I don't actually have it to reference. But essentially, yeah, either works. If you are getting javelins, you might not need it.
Yeah. You get them automatically, but yeah.
And the hand axes can be thrown, as funny as that is. Like, half your weapons are throwable.
And an explorer's pack, which automatically gives you all of that stuff.
That is found under adventuring gear.
You notice if we tab over to actions, now there are weapons showing here. These are attack rolls with the weapons filled in automatically from having them in the inventory. We have javelin for melee, javelin for ranged, which should say 4 because we have 4 of them. Might have to... Okay, now as you attack with this, it will tick them off one by one because it counts them as ammunition. And it automatically filled in the attack rolls as well as the damage rolls. We don't have any ammo for the short bow at the moment. Dylan, you still there?
Sorry, I was hitting the control button, or the shift button and not control. So, I was going to say that the ammo is also found under the adventuring gear table, and you will have enough money to buy it at the end of the character creation, because I believe you get 10 gold pieces, or 15, something like that, for the background.
You're correct. Also comes with one set of artisan's tools. We didn't add that in.
I went with alchemy supplies because you can still brew alcohol with alchemy supplies. Because I say so. And it's more expensive.
You can use this section in the treasure for money. It's basically what I do. Just you can do different denominations if you actually have different denominations.
Also, it's a good idea to use the exact same abbreviations for the denominations as all the other players, because when the GM goes to divvy out loot to the party, it actually looks at what the players have in their treasure section. And so if it says gold pieces typed out in one player's inventory and it says GP typed out in other players, it's going to recognize them as two different things.
And that would be a problem.
It gets annoying. It's actually something we need to address. But
okay.
Okay, so for the most part, that's gear. I mean, it's just dragging and dropping onto the inventory tab. It's pretty simple. You can, however, designate a location for the equipment. So, for example, if you have a backpack, if you type backpack in the location, it'll actually move that gear underneath the backpack, so to reorganize your gear based on where it's located. It's kind of neat.
I did not know that. That's actually very handy.
Yeah, it was something that I didn't know about, and I think you remember Zenas? Like when he was in, he actually had done that, and that's how I figured it out.
Very cool.
Let's see. Okay, so I think that's about it for equipment. What do you think? Is there anything else?
Yeah, you'll see here it automatically has the equipment's weight and everything at the bottom. It's going to track the encumbrance, your maximum, and what you can lift, push, and drag, and what your current encumbrance is at. You can also manually create equipment in here if there's something that for whatever reason isn't in the equipment tab. You can just type something in, and then in here put in the description. It won't automatically translate to a weapon under actions if it's a weapon or something like that, but you can add it manually there as well.
Well, actually, at the end of this whole thing, I'll actually describe on how to create items, and this will apply for items created in your inventory as a player too. But basically, if you type weapon where it says item type, it will actually convert the item to a weapon.
Oh, nice.
So, yes, it'll give you little boxes to put the damage type and stuff in. It's pretty convenient. All right, so basically what's left is aesthetics. You got your character portrait and your little token icon for using on the map. You can either use the pictures that come with Fantasy Grounds, the ones that come with the core class pack, or you can import your own picture. I've used a number of different pictures. It shows the optimal size for a picture to be 63 by 63 pixels. But I've used bigger pictures and it has had no problem. It's kind of stretched them to fit the box. And so you may actually get a lesser quality picture if you have something that's way beyond those rough dimensions. But Yeah, and then the parts of the notes page, which we kind of talked about earlier. There's nothing really intense on that page that needs any explaining. And then the Actions tab. And we'd gone over this just briefly with the weapons. But we're creating a barbarian, and there is an action that a barbarian can do that is not on the Actions tab currently. And so we're going to add that.
That is correct. That would be Rage. Rage is very important for barbarians.
Now, you can actually go to the barbarian screen in the library through the player's handbook. And you can drag and drop the Rage command onto the action screen. Now, sometimes if they have this stuff programmed, and some of them they do, some of them they don't, it will have what you need for the purposes of using the ability. In this case, it does not. And in fact, it has something that you don't need. You're going to want to right-click on where it says unconscious, and you're going to want to choose remove action, and then confirm delete. And then you're going to want to do the same thing on the row above that. Finally, you're going to want to right-click on the area where it says Rage, and click Add an Action, and then Add Effect. Then click on the magnifying glass on the right side on the line of the effect, and we're going to need to use a specific code that's created for Fantasy Grounds, we actually have a web link that we can use to get most of the terms for this code.
I pasted that in the chat just now. It's a fantastic, fantastic page.
In fact, they actually have some of the abilities and some of the magic items already listed at the bottom of the page, which is really useful. And in fact, they have Rage listed at the bottom of the page. So if you don't want to type it out, you can just copy and paste. I won't tell anybody. But you are going to want to change the target to self. Expend should be never, and the duration should be 10.
And since we have that open, I'm going to just paste the modifiers in here. Now what this is saying, which is what the Rage gives, which is when you Rage, gives you advantage on strength checks, advantage on strength saving throws, +2 to melee damage, and gives you resistance to bludgeoning, slashing, and piercing damage. Dylan?
Yes, I'm actually looking at something real quick, sorry.
That's all right.
You're going to need to use this page that has all of these code words for a number of things, including the bless spell. There's what's that attack, that ability that gives you advantage on attack but disadvantage on attacks against you?
Reckless attack.
Reckless attack is another one.
Which I think we had to create that ourselves because that wasn't actually on here.
But it's actually really easy to do once you figure it out. But basically, you're just going to have to follow the exact way that they have it set up. You'll want to look at something that's similar to it and follow that. Also, where you have spaces and colons and semicolons is very important. Honestly, I think that's about it for making a character.
For a level 1 barbarian, yeah, I think that covers everything.
So, now what we're going to cover is going to a level 2 barbarian. I actually did not have this.
No, there is one thing. We have to put the number of uses under Rage here.
Oh, that's true. I forgot about that.
Trying to remember how to do that.
Yeah, I can't remember how to do it. It had something to do with the spell category.
Yeah.
You can actually rename the group that the ability is in. So if you wanted to put a class ability in the blank to the right of the rage, it'll actually put it in its own category.
Oh, there we go.
Is it changing the mode?
I think so.
Okay.
I changed it
So
to preparation, and now I can put it in
yeah,
2 daily. Well, it's 2 per. Well, daily is long rest.
looks really odd with the spell slots there,
It
but
does.
okay. So as far as character
Ah, there we
creation
go.
goes,
Perfect. Now it just has the little 2 tick boxes.
okay. How'd you bring up the two tick boxes? I didn't see that.
Once once it's okay, went into preparation. That gave me the option to put in the uses, and then I ended up switching it back to standard.
I see. Okay. Yeah. That's actually great. Okay. So now we're just gonna level up from level 1 to level 2 because this can be kind of confusing because if you're not realizing what you're doing, you'll try to level up by clicking on the hourglass next to where it says your class and leveling up that way, and you're going to actually short yourself because it's not going to add stuff.
Now, leveling up is done just by the same way we assigned the class in the first place.
You just drag and drop the class.
And that increases it to level 2. It automatically adds by default average hit points, and added the class features that we get at level 2.
Now the hit points, I think that the way that the hit points are added can be adjusted by the DM in the settings menu, but in the default is I think average.
And if your DM wants you to roll, or you would prefer to roll, and he gives you the option, you can always just roll it and then manually adjust the maximum.
Correct. Ooh, nice roll.
Yeah. So rolled a 12 on it, plus 5 for Constitution. So that gives me 17 hit points from this level, on top of 17 from the first one. So that's a current 34.
It's pretty nice.
That's max hit points for 2 levels. It's very nice.
Yeah, you can't have a higher con than 20 anyway.
Not until you're a level 20 barbarian, or some other effect that allows you to break that rule. Yes.
All right. Let's see. I think that's it for the character creation aspect. I mean, it's pretty simple and straightforward. It's just there's a lot of features.
Right. And as you'll see, the reckless attack, again, didn't show up automatically under actions. It's something we can create.
Yeah.
Alright, drag and drop. My bad. Yes, I did give 20 to con. This isn't a discussion on character optimization. It was just where I decided to put the point. We're just showing how to actually use the program to make the character and things like that. Now, reckless attack gives advantage to your melee attacks and advantage to all enemies that attack you for 1 round.
So, is your character battle worthy? Out of curiosity.
Just about. I think I got that right. Oh, attack rolls. Any attack rolls against you, not just melee. Can you put range any or range all?
Actually, I
Or is
think
it
it
just
has to be
advantage
melee.
attack? Well, it grants you advantage on melee attacks only, specifically melee attacks using strength. But
Okay.
it grants all enemies advantage against you, regardless of whether you're using melee or range.
Pretty sure we have that exactly how it needs to be on your character.
Probably. I think there was one minor quibble with it, but it's something for another time.
It should say ADV, ATK, colon, melee, and then advantage, attack, and then just colon. So yeah, it's just, it always grants advantage of attack for that round against you, and it only grants on melee attacks.
Okay.
And so yeah, I think that the quibble was like if you were to use a finesse weapon using your dex.
Right.
It would recognize the advantage on that, even though it wasn't with strength. Okay, so I think that you should go ahead and bring up the combat tracker.
There we go. Oh god, I'm gonna die.
Okay, so initiative.
Now,
Oh, actually, before this, I wanna visit the shortcut bar because this is actually a really cool tool. You can drag attacks and you can drag effects to your shortcut bar, and this makes playing something like a barbarian, for example, really easy. And then you can have your main attack set up, you can have your rage set up, so that you don't have to have your character open. All your information will either be in the combat tracker or it'll be down there on that bar.
I did this
Which,
the wrong way.
if you're dancing around with a map, it's actually kind of crucial to not have your character sheet open.
It's important to note, you see the mistake I made here? You want to drag the actual effect onto the bar, as opposed to the name. Now you'll see it says like, hang on. Okay, I'm going to hold down the push to talk while we do this, because otherwise you guys aren't going to see it while I'm talking. Now, it says like, attack maul. It's got the whole thing. You can edit it and type in a shorter description to make it easier for you to know which one's which. So I have here the attack using the maul. I have the damage using the maul. I have here reckless attack, and over here is the rage. And see there, I typed into maul attack instead of having the full actual effect. So, but to roll a die from the sheet, you just grab the roll right here. You see it has the little die right here, and just drag it. For initiative, you can drop it into the chat, and it'll automatically do it on the combat tracker. For attacks and effects and things like that, you want to drag it onto whatever you're affecting on the combat tracker. Dylan, you still there?
Yes, I rolled NPC initiative because it seems like they always just have a 10 default for any monsters they call on here. So, roar.
Yeah.
All right. Well, looks like you have initiative, and I don't think that there's necessarily anything we need to go over on the shortcut bar. So, If you want, you can just go ahead and show how adding effects in combat work by raging.
Alright, so I'm a barbarian, so first thing I'm going to do is rage. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag the rage from the quick bar onto my character here in the combat tracker.
Or you can drag the little effect icon from the character sheet as well.
Yes, either of them work. Now you'll see that's reflected on the combat tracker. It says effects rage and then details what it does. So now if I attack, I will have +2 on melee damage if I hit, and so on and so forth. Now since I'm alone here and I'm not sure if I'm going to hit him, I'm also going to add on the reckless attack so I get advantage.
Sounds good.
Now it's risky because it means he'll have advantage on me, but that's a tactics discussion. Anyways. So all of that is on there. So when I go ahead and attack... Why did that not work? Yeah, it didn't roll the advantage though.
You still hit?
I did still hit. I'm not sure why it didn't roll the advantage. That's very strange.
It is.
I might have created the effect incorrectly for reckless attack.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it actually tracked the correctly. I think because you had it in parentheses, you needed to take the advantage attack where it says melee. It doesn't need to be in parentheses, I don't think, or bracket.
Let's try that then.
Yeah, take the brackets out of where it says melee.
Alright, there we go. That should work now.
Go ahead and give it another swing. You still hit, but just see.
It's still not working. Well, regardless of that, I have the formatting wrong for some reason. Reckless attack was a tricky one that we had a little trouble coding. If you want to do it without going into all that, there's an advantage button you can click on right here. You click that, it will automatically roll advantage on your next roll. So if I do that now... What the hell? Why is advantage not working? I had it clicked.
Hold on a second. Try now. It works for me.
It's very strange. This normally works.
Okay, well you still hit it.
Regardless,
if you want to roll for damage.
Yeah, it was a hit, so now I'm going to drag the damage onto here. Now you see it has the 2 die rolls, 2 die 6, +2 for the rage. There it says effects +2, and the other 3 is coming from strength and proficiency. Yes, or no, just strength.
That's actually a nice little smack you did.
Yep. 14 damage to an adult gold dragon, not bad.
I forgot to actually set it to be your initiative. So at the end of your initiative, you will hit the
turn complete button, which is right down here. It's this little down arrow.
Holy shit, this guy's got a whole bunch of stuff on his list of actions.
Well, he is a dragon. Now, from a tactical perspective, what I just did was not a great idea, because he's going to have advantage. He's going to have advantage to hit me. Dragons get a lot of attacks. I don't know if that's true in 5th edition or not, but classically they do. And yeah, one level 2 barbarian against an adult gold dragon, you're going to want to run away.
The dragon can use its frightful presence. It then makes 3 attacks, one with its bite, 2 with its claws.
So yeah, all 3 of those attacks against me are going to have advantage, because I use reckless attack. Tactically not the best idea, but we're trying to just show what the program does with these things. And I didn't see an advantage on that either. So yeah, I did not build reckless attack correctly.
You can actually, I think, drag and drop it off of Kriv if you want. I think it'll work that way.
Let's see. That looks like it worked.
Did you drag the effect onto your dude just to see?
About to.
Alright. Yep, there we go. So, Ugh, that's gross.
Okay, so yeah, that's my bad. Oh, he got a critical on me. That's the other thing. Advantages. Okay,
Hey, you're still alive.
that still alive and still conscious even. Now you see, it says partially resisted because I have the rage effect up, and he's doing what, slashing damage, or piercing, or whatever, depending on the
It's
attack.
piercing for the bite and
And,
slashing for the claws.
right, so I take half damage from all of those attacks. Otherwise, I'd be pretty much dead.
Now, granted, that's actually I did those incorrectly. How that should have been done is you do the attack, then the roll, then the attack, then the damage roll, because it counted the bite being the critical when it was a claw that was the critical. So
Yeah,
usually you want to do your damage rolls immediately after your attack rolls.
but generally, for our purposes, that really only comes into effect when it is a critical hit, because the system does track the crits, and it will automatically add the double damage. Why can't I open my character sheet back up? There we go. Alright, so if you want to see the coding on Reckless Attack, I don't know why it's showing up under cantrips or whatever, but that's what it actually looks like for it to work properly. I had the wrong spaces or whatever in there. Formatting is very important in this. And my character is also frightened now. Lovely.
Hey, the good thing is that he's going to run. So I think that probably will conclude combat. I don't think. Is there anything else? I mean, spells have a little bit of a different effect, but they pretty much work just like an attack. Just consider them to be a different weapon.
The only thing I'd say is to advance the combat another round just to show the duration going down on everything. Like if you see, it just went to the next round. The duration on my rage dropped to 9 rounds, and the advantage attack granted on me from reckless attack expired because that only lasts 1 round.
It also tracked that the frightened status was applied by the adult gold dragon. And while I don't think that it'll actually show you that from your perspective, um,
I do see in the chat box it says effect frightened by adult gold dragon.
I actually pulled the frightened status out of the effects tab on the right because there wasn't a frightened status in the Gold Dragon's command menu. So it actually took into account that it was during the turn of the Gold Dragon.
Whoops, I did not mean to click that. I just restrained myself.
Good job.
Yeah. So you probably won't be using the effects thing here as a player much. It'll be built into your spells and everything if things are done rightly. But like
Hopefully, yeah.
if you use an invisibility spell and for some reason you don't have it set up on your sheet, you can like click invisible here, and it makes you invisible, which applies whatever all the invisibility effects are. This is more for the DM to apply these conditions.
I like it because they're actually all right there, and you don't have to like go looking them up.
Alright, so what's next on the agenda now that we've covered the basics of combat?
Maps and tokens really is the only thing that's left. We went over tokens and maps with the menu options, but I did not cover. Actually, that's not even relevant for the players. So I guess that's it. Actually, that is everything that you really need to utilize Fantasy Grounds. I mean, we didn't really go into detail about the commands in chat.
That's true. There's some basic things like if you're using the chat a lot, which I mean we try to keep all in character things to the chat just because it makes it easier to tell what's in character and what's not. You'll see down here right now it says out of character because I'm holding down Alt because that's my push to talk key on voice chat so Dylan can hear me. Normally it just says chat, and if you hold down Control it will say action. Now, if you do chat, for example, it comes out like that in a speech bubble. For actions, it goes in that color, and for out of character, it goes in green. It will also say that whatever name you're logged in as in addition to your character name. Now the important thing on this is you just need to be holding down Control or Alt when you press Enter to send a line. You don't have to hold it down while you're typing the whole thing.
The GM also does not have the action ability. Instead, he has something called Story, which has a special border around it that sets it apart. It's visually different.
You can also use this to do other things like send whispers to the GM or to other players. Again, all the commands, if you type /, it'll show them all there. I've found that one thing you can do is use the little, for example, the mood command. You can use that to specify that you're speaking in a different language. Like if you're speaking Orcish and only one other member in the party understands it, you can type Orcish as the mood and then type in what you're saying, and it'll say that it's in Orcish. Everyone will be able to understand it, but at least they'll know that they're not supposed to understand it.
Which honestly is pretty useful if everybody, sticks to role playing and such. Actually, I really like that you found that out because I didn't know about the mood command until you started using it.
It's a handy little thing. And there's also a command to roll die in here, but honestly, it's so much easier. You have the dice here to just use them.
Yeah, unless you're going to need like an n number die, using the dice there is useful. The only other things that you could possibly want, you can scale the UI, I think. I don't know if you have access to scaling the UI for your menu or not.
Where would I find that?
You type / and then scale UI, and then you type any number in between 50 and 200. And, actually, this is something I didn't know. When you're whispering, you can actually just type /reply, and you'll reply automatically to the last whisper.
Yes, that is very, very useful. Because otherwise you're typing /whisper, and it has to be, the character name or their login name? I don't even remember.
It has to be their exact character name.
Yeah,
and
which can be long.
Yeah, if somebody's using symbols in their name, they're just a jerk at that point.
Yes. Now, can the GM see all whispers, or does he only see whispers to him?
Actually, the GM cannot see all whispers. Only things whispered to the GM.
So really, you shouldn't use the whispers for in-game communication. Really, it's not something because the GM should know what you're saying to another character.
Honestly, I'm a bigger fan of using the notes to communicate with the GM. Like, if you're going to have a conversation with the GM and it's private, I would either use Steam Chat or whisper the GM like, "Hey, check the notes" or something like that. But I mean, it's not too bad, especially using the reply command. But I'm trying to think if there was anything else. I think that's it for all of the player stuff.
All right, now's the time for questions if anybody's got them. Although it doesn't look like we have a lot of viewers at the moment, so I don't think we're going to have any.
Well, we might have some questions if you post it on YouTube too.
That will happen, yes.
Let's see. If anybody's interested, I will be going over some of the more advanced features, especially for like GMs. That's primarily what the next thing that I'm going to be going over will be. Aaron, did we ever get you set up with an open port?
Yeah, we did. That was a while back, though, and I did have to reinstall Windows since then.
Oh. I don't think that would have actually changed your router settings, though.
I'm hoping not.
See if you can pop open your own client, like set up your game.
Just do a create campaign?
Yeah, go to create campaign. So you want to go back to the main menu, There's actually going to be a whole bunch of features that you didn't have in the player's screen. And it looks identical. I mean, you can almost
It does.
not tell.
I do see that there's one more button in the upper right-hand corner.
Yeah, that's just the mood button. That's not even like a really important button. It just makes the screen change colors.
Alright, so what have we got in here?
Well, the differences, I think, most importantly, you do get a slightly different set of commands when you type slash and hit enter. In the PC button on the right, you'll have access to all of the players' characters that are in the game, not just ones that are owned by you or that are owned by nobody. You can go ahead.
Is it always helpful?
You can also create and import and export characters at will, which the players actually aren't allowed to export characters. So that is really useful if you're, for example, switching between like a desktop and a laptop, or you have like a system restore or something like that you're going to do and you want to put it on a flash drive. You can export all of the players' characters and keep it safe while whatever happens. The next thing, this is actually probably the most important tab for a GM, and it's the story tab. This will probably be one of the most intensive parts of the section because there is so much that you can do with these.
This is where you keep all the bits that you've pre-typed out, right?
Correct. This is where I keep, basically what I tend to do with this is I make a flow chart for the session. I try to anticipate some directions that the game may go, but you can never really anticipate everything. But if you look at the bottom, you have little tabs. And you can differentiate between, you should only have one at the time, but you can right-click on it and add new group, and you'll create a new tab. And you can rotate, if you right-click on it, you can rotate the color and the icons on the tab. So you can use these to keep track of the different pieces of information that you're keeping in the different tabs. So if you're running multiple games out of the same file, or if you're running different storylines for the different characters, like if you have some information that you're wanting to keep separate, you can actually file it underneath these little different tabs. I actually have two tabs, and one of them is for the backstories of all the characters that were in the game.
Oh, that's useful.
We're going to want to create a new, which it looks like you've already done. That can be done by either clicking the little slash and then clicking the plus sign, or right-clicking and clicking Create New Item. Then you'll click on the little shield, and it will bring up a story window. Now, you can type out stuff as plain text in these, but it's not going to be interactive. Where the really interesting parts of this come from is after you've already typed something out, you can add effects to it. So, for example, if I typed, the cat walked into the room, if you right-click on it, you'll have the option of going to paragraph.
Okay.
And now it'll add a little icon to the left of that. And as the GM, this is a really useful icon because it allows you to either enter text into the chat box or to assume the identity of a spoken character. In this case, if you click on the little chat bubble, it'll immediately pop that information into the chat box.
The one that says chat frame?
So, yeah, paragraph types, then chat frame.
There we go.
Now, if you wanted to have dialogue that's already in this, because that's just narration. If you want dialogue where you have NPCs talking, you take it one step further. And so you would right-click on that text again, go to paragraph types, and then you click on assign speaker, which is at the top. And then you would type the name of the character that says it. You can change the text back to its original form through that same menu and selecting body text instead. If you select heading, it'll just increase the font size and change its color. If you change it to a list, it'll make bullets. If you change it to a table, it will actually allow you to create a table that you can roll off of and get different effects based on the die roll. And then the last one is link. And link is really useful because you can link anything that has a little shield icon next to it into that slot. So, for example, if you decided to create a new link, it'll put a little circle next to where you're supposed to type. And you can type anything you want there. You can type the name of an NPC. Bill sounds good. And let's say you created an NPC named Bill, which would be under the NPC tab. Well, you can just drag and drop that NPC into that little bubble. And now, from this menu, you can actually access Bill's information. You can do that with items. You can do that with maps, images. You can even do it with notes. Other story elements. I think you can do it with charts. If there's anything else. I mean, it's pretty useful to tie some of the information together. Let's see. Oh, and there's a little icon in the top right-hand corner. I don't know if you have this icon as a player. It's the not the top
key
right
that says public.
No, it's the little lock.
I have that on some things as a player, yeah.
Okay, well, if you lock it, that'll lock the information so that it can't be changed. Makes it nice. Yeah, let's see. Really, that's all for story elements, but there's so much that you can do with that. As you're developing a game, you'll actually see how it comes together. Let's see, maps. Maps, you're going to have to mess with files. This is one of the reasons why I suggested that you may want to move your directory into a more accessible location, because you're going to need to be able to access that directory. Now, it's not too hard because there's a little folder button in the top left-hand corner of the images and map screen, and that will open up a window. And if you save things to this directory and this file location, it will pop up in this blank. And you can save just about anything, whether it's a map that you create on a website or whether it's a picture of a ditto.
Those damn dittos.
Yes. Let's see. Then we have NPCs. Now this is actually a two-part thing. NPCs are, in general, they're quick identities that you access as a GM. So I think you made an NPC just a second ago.
Yes, I did.
If you open that NPC again, and you'll notice that it has a spot for an icon so that you can kind of give it an identity on the map. And next to that, it'll have a little chat bubble.
Yes.
This is my favorite thing about this
Yes,
program.
I just discovered that.
You click the chat bubble, you actually assume the role of that NPC. You can also do this with PCs. Any player character that is in your game, you can actually click on a chat bubble and assume their identity and speak for them, which is cool as hell in case one of the players is not actually there.
Or they get charmed or mind controlled or something.
Yep. This NPC tab is also where you create monsters and NPCs that the party will fight, like villains and stuff. Now, you can actually take a 5th edition monster manual and literally, word for word, copy all of the information from the monster entry into the blanks here, and it will create an exact copy of that monster. Literally, that's all you have to do. There's no tricks, there's no codes that you have to put in. There might be some trickery that you'll have to do with some of their abilities, but for the most part, the monsters that you get from the DLC are pretty much just word for word.
That is actually super helpful. Makes things a lot easier.
And I honestly, I think that's it. I mean, it is a little bit more difficult putting abilities into this NPC box, but...
Now, what is this encounters button here?
Oh, yes, the encounters. That is used for creating... Wait for it. Encounters.
Dun, dun, dun!
So in my case, I actually have 3 encounters in this tab. I have the encounter of the Horde of Undead that the party fought in the last 2 sessions that they played. And it essentially has like 15 different undead monsters listed underneath it. It has their challenge rating total and the amount of experience that the challenge rating is worth. So for your case, you might just want to fabricate some information about Bill. And we can drag him over into an encounter. You can create a new encounter and just drag him over into it.
Right.
And I'll show you how it all comes together into an actual encounter. So if you were to create Bill as a monster, just give him some random stats. He doesn't necessarily have to have anything written in most of the blanks. He will need an attack, though.
And the attack goes under actions.
Correct. So the things that he will need, he'll need an armor class, he'll need hit points, and the blanks to the right aren't necessary to fill in, but if you were to fill them in like verbatim from the monster manual, for example, in Bill's case, you would put armor class 13, and then you'd put parentheses in that right blank and say scale mail or whatever type of armor he's wearing that's giving him that armor class.
Right.
You only type stuff in the saving throw block if they're getting advantage in saving throws. Or not advantage, proficiency in the saving throws. I think it's the same with the skills. Let's see. Okay, so the...
So I've created an action form. How do I turn it into an actual weapon? Because all it can do right now is enter text.
Scroll down to the actions. Okay, type in an action name. So, like punch. And then once you have that done, you're going to want to type verbatim melee weapon attack, and melee weapon and attack. The first letters are all going to be capitalized. Colon. And then you're going to want to put plus whatever to hit, comma, reach, 5 feet, period, comma.
Do you just do like +2, or does it have to put +2 to hit?
+2 to hit, comma.
Any spaces?
You'll have a space before the +2 and a space after the +2, but you'll keep the plus and the number together. It's pretty much straight grammatical. You don't have to worry too much about like having the words run together or having anything in all caps.
So like this?
Conveniently. You will want spaces in between melee, weapon, and attack. Sorry. And you'll want space between the colon and the +2.
There is a space there.
Oh, okay.
So this is not coding, like creating the effects and the other thing. This is just straight typing.
It is actually coding because it's going to read these as a code.
Right, it's not exactly the same type of coding, though.
But you are going to need spaces in between all of your words.
Right. Alright, so we have melee weapon attack, +2 to hit, and then what, damage?
Yes. After that, you're going to have capital H for hit, colon. You're going to have the word hit typed out, sorry. Colon, and then you're going to have, you can just type a number. You don't even have to put a die roll, or you can just type a die roll. It doesn't matter either way. And then designate the type of damage, so bludgeoning, and then you type damage, period.
Looks like it ran out of room.
I'm going to have to wait for the stream to catch up.
There we go.
If you hover your mouse over where it says melee weapon attack, does it light up?
It does.
Okay, so that means that the code works. And if you highlight it over the damage part, once you have it finished.
The damage part does light up. The hit part does not.
Oh, the hit part does not light up?
No. Is the hit not needed then?
Well, no, the word hit needs to be there. The hit won't light up. The damage itself will. But you've got the weapon attack part lights up, and the damage part lights up, so you're good. That will work for the purposes of an attack. You'll want to lock assuming you don't want to add anything else to it. And then you're going to want to drag the character into a new encounter, which looks like you've already done. You're going to want to bring up the combat tracker. And this is the cool part, is that now you don't have anything listed for the challenge rating or the name for the encounter. It's not really necessary, but when you're actually developing the game, you're going to need that information.
Absolutely.
But to actually just automatically put everything that's in the encounter into the combat tracker, that little arrow on the bottom left automatically does it. So in the case where I had that 15 to 20 some monsters, I literally just clicked one button and it added them all onto the tracker.
Oh, that's very handy.
The really cool thing is that you can actually designate all of the monsters by placement on the map before you actually have them go onto the combat tracker. You can set them up in their locations on the map so that when you add them to the combat tracker, it'll add them to the map also. So I literally, at the same time, I added them to the map and the combat tracker by pressing that arrow. And it's very useful. Will save you time. So you probably don't want to go through the efforts of creating a NPC, but what you can do is drag and drop another bill into the combat tracker.
Bill 1 and Bill 2.
If you click on the little helmet, you'll actually change his allegiance or affiliation. It should be the helmet on the dude. And so if you have two of them, you should be able to have them fight each other, which is kind of cool. So if you click on the dot to the left of where Bill is, it should actually automatically start initiative in the combat tracker. and it should pop up all of his commands. And in this particular case, it should only show the punch.
All right, and just drag that onto build 2.
Yep.
This does not appear to be working.
Do you have the? If his initiative is up. Okay, you got to actually highlight the commands, not the shield. Sorry, the words. Yeah,
Okay.
there you go. So yeah, it's not nearly as aesthetically pleasing as it is as a player, but if you're running an NPC that is going to be with the party, it's actually okay to run some of their abilities in the quick bar down at the bottom. Typically, I have not found a use for the quick bar as a DM yet.
Just trying to get one of them to hit. Alright, there we have a hit.
Let's see. I think that's about it for NPCs. I mean, you'll create your own NPCs. Some of them don't have to be detailed. Like I have a half a dozen of them that are just really generic, like soldier or old woman. And some of them are actual monsters that I created before I had the DLC. And some of them are monsters that I modified from the DLC. So you can drag and drop monsters from the DLC into the NPC square, and then open them up and modify them as your heart wants, really, which is pretty useful. Let's see. Next on the list is items. You still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, cool. So I mentioned earlier that you could create items and you could like designate whether or not they're weapons. You're not going to have the ID thing because that's actually something that's done through the settings tab through your client as the GM.
Okay.
But it's in the settings to have item identification. So if you want to find that, you're more than welcome to, and it'll put a little icon that says ID in the right corner next to the lock whenever you create a new item. But in the type line, if you type weapon or armor, it will automatically adjust the item to be of the particular type of item that you're listing. So type armor. It will add AC bonus, Dex bonus, strength, and properties to the list of features in this item.
Very useful.
And the same will happen if you type weapon. It'll add damage and another thing. A lot of it is just aesthetic information. Obviously, you're going to want really cool items to have details and stuff. But it's nothing that I have to describe.
Right.
The Parcels section, though, this is where you create kind of like little loot packs. And you stuff them full of the items that you create or that you pull out of the player's handbook or whatever. You also will designate how much gold are in these parcels, if there is any gold. And these parcels will get drugged to the party sheet, which I don't think that you've had a chance to look at the party sheet from the GM's perspective. So
I don't believe I have, no.
go ahead and bring it up. And if you go to inventory, you'll see an area where you can drag parcels into the section, and it'll basically unpack whatever's in that parcel and allow you to select characters from the party to assign, and it'll move all of the stuff over into inventory. The gold piece section will allow you to, for the most part, evenly divide the gold, and you can actually look and see what all of the characters have in their inventory, which is something I'm almost certain you can't do as the player.
As the player, you can't even look at someone else's character sheet.
Right. The experience points tab on this is also useful. I don't know if you guys have this on your party sheet as players.
Nope.
This is where you drag and drop encounters, like what we had designed earlier, and it'll automatically calculate the challenge rating and divide the experience among all the characters. And it will have a section for quests so that you can do the same thing with quests. Now, how you do the quests is you actually have to create them. And there's a little tick box. So if it hasn't been awarded yet, it will be unticked. So if you click the award button, anything that's in that section that isn't ticked, it will add experience to the party. So keep that in mind. You might end up awarding experience for stuff that they haven't completed if you haven't already have it in the box. But I mean, that's basically, I think that's everything the program has to offer. I mean, there's all kinds of different stuff that you can adjust and customize to how you want.
Now, it looks like the party sheet here, the main section, is basically, it will have a list of short stats for the party members if you have them dragged and dropped there. That's another thing I don't have as a player.
Yeah, I forget that as the players you don't have access to a lot of the information. I think that you can actually look and see who has what saves and skills also.
And is this what you use to, for example, drop a saving throw onto a player?
I can drag and drop and have you guys make saves.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Off of that list. But typically, like if we're in combat and an enemy uses an effect on you that calls for a save, that's built
it's going to
into
come off the NPC.
Yeah, it's built into the code for the effect. But it is actually really handy to be able to see all of the information like right there in your face. Let's see. I'm trying to think if there's the order thing, but I think you guys have access to the party order.
We do. That's something the players can do too.
Okay. There was one thing I was going to bring up. This is just kind of a thing to throw out there. You can create your own rules.
House rules.
Well, yeah, house rules, and that's actually done through going to the main menu.
So backing out of this?
Correct. Utilizing score 2.5. I've created a superhero system using the 5th edition rules, but I primarily just used the notes section to write down how things worked. But that's not exactly what I'm talking about. There are ways to create your own house rules and adjust the core information. Let's see if you can do it with 3.5 since it's out of copyright or whatever. Okay, so we've got 3.5 basic rules in the data module.
Right.
Let's see. It doesn't look like you can edit this information.
No,
And
I don't see a way to do it.
obviously you can't drag and drop it. I think that that's probably the primary benefit to the 5th edition with Fantasy Ground. I could have sworn that there was a way that you could adjust some of the rules and mechanics. I'll have to look that up. And if I find it, I might have like another short video or something.
Sure.
But I think that's it. Is there anything that anybody has questions about, or anything you have questions about?
I can't think of anything else, and it doesn't appear we have anyone watching at the moment. So thank you guys for watching. I'll be putting this up on YouTube for people to look at later. And I hope this was helpful to you.
It was a pleasure doing this for you guys, and thanks for having me, Aaron.
Of course. Wouldn't want to do it with anyone else.
Thanks, man.
Have a good night, everybody.